resilience in the face of change from all directions. That's how some of the most powerful figures in the world's finance describe the state of the global economy. Nearly 6 months into Donald Trump's second term and the ignition of the global trade war. And the leaders are here, of course, for UNGA, as it's known, the United Nations General Assembly. On this programme, you're going to hear from the Director General of the World Trade Organization, the Managing Director of the IMF, and the Chairman of one of the world's largest ports operators, DP World, will be with us to put that all into perspective. Let's begin with trade and the World Trade Organization. Now, you might have thought that after all the actions of the US administration, unilateral in some cases, bilateral in others, not a hint of multilateral through the WTO, that the organization might be in poor shape. Well, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala says that the global trading system may have been battered, but it is still resilient despite all the US tariffs that have been imposed. I asked the Director General how much of that damage has been caused by the Trump administration.
Certainly, the unilateral actions of the US have caused the most tremendous disruption to global trading rules that we've seen in 80 years. But based on the evidence and the fact we have, yes, it has disrupted global trade, but we have found through our analysis that still 72% of world trade, goods trade, is taking place on WTO terms, which means that the global trading system, 72% of it is still based on global rules. So yes, the system has been battered, it's been bent, but there's a stable core that is still resilient.
Do you fear a creeping encroachment that more countries will try to impose, if you will, a unilateral or a bilateral relationship instead of multilateral?
Actually, what we're seeing is the opposite. Suddenly, most WTO members are realizing how valuable the system is. You know, trade was never a sexy topic. Now people are turning around and saying this really matters. We really value predictability and stability for our businesses to trade in.
Are you seeing a rewiring of trade relations?
Absolutely. All our members are doing something we think is very good, which is trying to diversify their markets. We are certainly seeing that. South-South trade is now very important. It was 10% in the 1990s. You know, now it is 25% of total trade. So that is growing. We see all countries making efforts to diversify, and we support it. Richard, there's one thing I do want to say. Some of the criticisms made by the US are valid. We think that this system was made for interdependence, and it has become over-dependent in certain respects. There's over-dependence on the US for markets in some instances, like you just said. There's also over-dependence on China in some instances for critical mineral supplies. We need to diversify and explore other markets, and our members are doing that.
Do you see a role for the WTO?
Absolutely. I just told you we're at the center of world trade. 72% of world trade takes place on WTO terms.
But I worry that, you know the game Jenga, where you pull bits out and eventually the whole thing collapses.
It's not happening. Let me just give you an example. Just recently, last week, a coalition of 14 members led by Singapore, by Iceland, by New Zealand, and by UAE came together, brought together 14 countries and said, look, we are middle powers. We value the system so much.
If we look at the disputes mechanism, which has been well and truly frozen for some years, can you see any way that unfreezes?
Richard, I have news for you. As we speak, there are 15 cases in front of the dispute settlement system. So this idea that it's frozen, it's not working, is not quite true. The upper body, it's the only court in the world that does trade. Cases on trade globally, the upper body, the appellate body, yes, is paralyzed. But the lower body has been working and has 15 cases, and members are actually being quite creative in the ways that when the panel gives a judgment, then if they want to appeal, instead of appealing, because that will go into the void, they've now developed mechanisms, mediation, arbitration, to try and sort out the cases. And this is what the US was complaining about, that the place had become too litigious and members need to talk more to each other. Well, they're doing it. But look, I want to tell you one thing.
Yes.
There's a place where you have a point. When you say 72%, you know, are you afraid that it might fritter? The fear that I have is that we shouldn't be complacent just because we see a stable core, because we are dealing with uncertainty for the next 3 years. And that means we need to reform. Status quo is not an option. WTO must have deep reforms. And I have a very important thing to tell you.
Please.
Yesterday, China announced that it would no longer have access to the preferences that a developing country member at the WTO has access to. That is big news because it opens the door for reform. China is not saying it's not a developing country. At the WTO, being developing incurs certain privileges.
So
and
they're giving them up.
They are giving
voluntarily.
up the privileges. They can remain a developing country, that's the name. But the privileges it leads to at the WTO, they are giving up. And I think that's major for the reform because it's one of the things we want to deal with.
Now, that's the Director General of the World Trade Organization. The chairman of DP World says that as far as his company is concerned, global trade is shifting, not slowing, very much along the lines that you've just been hearing about. New shifting, bringing new opportunities. DP World is one of the world's largest port operators. It runs Dubai's Jebel Ali Free Zone, which links Asian markets with Africa, Europe and the Americas. Revenue was up 20% during the first half of the year. It's spending $2.5 billion to improve its ports and other facilities. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem is the chair and chief exec of DP World. The chairman is with me now. Sir, it is good to see you. You were listening just then to what Ngozi was saying, and there is this shift. Now, obviously, the first part of the year was biased because people were getting things in before tariff deadlines came into play. Do you see the rest of the year continuing with that strong demand?
Yes. Richard, the world has contracted in trade during COVID, and we're just recovering from it. We see growth in our business around the world. UK is almost 4% in the first 6 months of this year. We're building a terminal called Terminal 5, and it's already committed, and now we have to build another terminal called Terminal 6 just to cope with the trade in UK.
So what about this idea that the US, with its tariffs, is remaking the global trading system, or at least trying to? And we have seen the volume of trade reduce, but it's more sophisticated than that, isn't it? It's different trade routes that are growing.
Let me tell you, the United States is negotiating a fair trade. It is the largest trading economy in the world, and they don't feel they are being treated fairly around the world. And it's whatever you see about tariffs, it's just a negotiation, negotiating a deal. At the end, whoever is negotiating will come to the middle part where both would agree that this is the right one. We haven't reached that yet.
Do you see much more disruption? The Director General says, battered but not beaten, which is similar to what you're telling me. But do you see much more disruption coming down the road?
Let me say, disruption for us is opportunities. I'm telling you. Trade.
In what way?
Well, we are everywhere in the world. Wherever it goes less, it will go more in another area. We've seen trade in Africa growing like you wouldn't believe. We've seen India growing. We see markets in the Far East growing. We see the Middle East. Look at the Middle East today. Turkey is going to have big growth because there's no more war where Syria was. Syria is growing. We just started the port in Syria.
You see, this is something because I think we've been so focused on the US and the tariffs that these other growing stories perhaps have missed us by on a daily basis. But you're saying they're there. And I'm thinking particularly about intra-African trade and, as you say, new countries like Syria.
Absolutely. The media is maybe nervous about what's happening. We are not. We see growth in Brazil. Imagine, we had a port where we expanded and we worried who's going to come. And now we have no space. We have to find more space.
So where are you putting your eggs?
Today, I see the Middle East growth. I see India, definitely a lot of growth. I see Latin America, especially Brazil, and even the Pacific side of Latin America with the growth. I see Indonesia is growth. The Far East, Richard, they cannot even cope with the demand of their own internal market, be it China or Indonesia.
What about the various regional serious wars, like, for example, the Red Sea, the Cape, places where that has become extremely difficult and added considerable costs for shippers? Has that abated any much, or is that still very much prevalent?
Whoever goes through the Red Sea goes to the same cost. So the cost is not one shipping is paying less, everybody paying the same. And when there is a high cost on everybody dealing with it. But what we do and what we did, we found different routes. Like if I have a consignment going to Europe or go to Uzbekistan through the Black Sea, through maybe our port in Constanța, Romania, I will take it through Karachi and then take it by road through Afghanistan or Iran into, so I can do that between Karachi and Warsaw for about 7 days, or 10 days, sorry. Uzbekistan is 8 days and Warsaw is 10 days. We had to find new routes, and that's what we've been doing.